Okay, this is 140-160 class, and we're going to start off with an assignment, a reading back of an assignment. And since it looks like there is no one wanting to join the class today, I'm going to pause it while we do this. Okay. Recording. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of four voice, and this is what we were just reading. So this is exchange here at the beginning. So this is going to be plaintiff counsel, who is Ms. Bagan. And this is actually Mr. Hudson defense. And we have the court also in this. And I don't know if we're going to get to the witness. It might just continue to be the defendant actually comes in. When the defendant comes in, well, he comes in one time. I'm going to indicate him with the witness. It will be clear to you that it's the defendant. And you can hit the defendant with the D answer bar. Do you use W answer bar for witness? Yeah. The witness? Okay, so that makes sense then. And the reason we refer to him as the defendant is because he's not sitting, he is the defendant. He's sitting next to his counsel. He's not in the witness chair, not giving testimony. And so that's how he's referred to when he speaks from defense counsel table. Excuse me. So we're going to start with the court. And again, I'm doing this for myself as much as you. Ms. Bacon and Mr. Hudson. Court begins. This is Michael Robert Limke, present with his attorney, Harry Hudson, and the people represented by Lori Bacon. Are both sides ready to proceed? People are ready. Okay. Yes, Your Honor. However, let me make a couple of I think I need to make a couple comments on the record. I have currently a trial going upstairs in Department 8 with Judge Girolami. A trial? Correct. A jury trial? Correct. Ms. Bastian, who is an attorney currently associated with our office, because we're down one, is picking that jury for me. It's my understanding that Mr. Martin, as soon as he can, will be here to relieve me in doing this particular proceeding. Well, how is that going to work on a prelim? Okay, I just want to make sure, because I don't think we've ever done four voice in here before. So this is all colloquy. So you're using your symbols, not Q's and A's or anything. Okay, very good. And how's the speed? Okay. Sorry, I'm going to pick it up with Hudson now. Ready? I'm expecting this was going to take at least half a day. I know, but if we start a prelim, he's not going to know what's happening. How is he going to cross-examine? What's he doing? He is in at least one other department. I don't know which department he's in right now. He's in Department 2, Your Honor. What's he doing up there? He is doing a motion to withdraw a plea on an individual by the name of Vaughn Campos, and he's been doing that since 8:30 this morning. Jerry, did we find out who's in Department 2? That's Judge Azevedo. That's Judge Azevedo. Can we find out from Judge Azevedo how long Mr. Martin is going to take up there? It sounds like, according to his bailiff, he thought till noon, but I will double check again. I don't really want, first of all, if she's picking the jury, you're going to have to do the jury. I'm going to have to do the trial. You can't start a prelim, it seems, if you left in the middle of cross-examination. How would that work? That wouldn't work. But I want this case to go because it was put over from last week. So maybe we can start it. Well, how much more do they have left across the hall? Do they have something else for us to do between now and 12? Do you have a doctor here? Your Honor, one of the allegations in this case is that the defendant inflicted GBI on this victim. I have the surgeon here. This is the second time now that he's had to come to court. His surgery schedule is backed up this afternoon. He made time specifically for this case this morning. Well, Mr. Hudson, could we put the surgeon on out of order and you could do, I have no objections to that. I don't think that would cause a problem. No, I don't have any objections to it. Okay, but we have to start now, Your Honor. That's what I'm saying. We'll start now. You can put the surgeon on out of order. Mr. Hudson can cross-examine the surgeon. It really doesn't have to do with the facts of the incident itself. And then we'll recess and Mr. Martin can pick it up this afternoon. Is that agreeable with you, Mr. Hudson? That's agreeable with me. Is that agreeable with you, Mr. Lemke? Yes, Your Honor. Let's do that, okay? We'll call the surgeon. Call Dr. Rosini. Rosini. Okay, please be seated, sir. Move to exclude witnesses. Okay. Any witnesses in this case are excluded from the courtroom. They have to remain outside until their name is called. They are not to discuss their testimony with anyone except the attorneys until the case is completed. Your Honor, for the record, there are no other witnesses present in the courtroom at this time. Okay. Doctor, please state your full name and spell your last name for the record. Michael Rosini, Jr., R-O-S-S-I-N-I. How are you employed? I'm a surgeon at McHenry Medical Group and attending surgeon at Scenic General Hospital, as well as Doctors Medical Center. Would you relate briefly for us your medical training and education? Bachelor degree at UCLA, medical school at Autonoma University, Guadalajara, and University of Maryland, residency training and internship at the University of Maryland Hospital, and 1 extra year of specialty training in trauma surgery at the Maryland Institute Emergency Medical Services at the University of Maryland. Are you affiliated with any particular medical boards regarding surgery? Board eligible on the American Board of Surgery till 1993. How long have you been practicing in Modesto? 1 year. How long have you been practicing medicine? Since 1982. Were you on staff at hospitals somewhere other than in Modesto prior to last year? The University of Maryland, the Maryland Institute, Emergency Medical Services, Mercy Hospital, Baltimore, Maryland, Maryland General Hospital, University of Maryland. What specific specialized training do you have in the area of surgery? General surgery, vascular surgery, and trauma surgery. How are vascular surgery and trauma surgery differentiated? Most of vascular surgery is an elective basis, and most of trauma surgery is immediate injury, need, and repair. In your training in the area of trauma surgery, did you learn how to identify certain types of forensic evidence, such as shotgun pellets? Yes. Part of the training involved mechanism, injury, and suspected injuries associated with injuries encountered in the operating room. Doctor, have you previously qualified as an expert in the area of traumatic surgery in another jurisdiction? Yes, I have. Where was that? In Baltimore, Maryland, at various jurisdictional levels, the District Court of Maryland, and on one particular trial, the U.S. Federal Court on another Department of Justice case, and the federal grand jury in the District of Maryland for another incident of traumatic surgery. Your Honor, at this time, I would offer Dr. Rosini as the expert in the area of trauma surgery. I'm satisfied as to his qualifications. Mr. Hudson, do you want to voir dire him? I just have a couple of questions I'd like to ask. Okay, so this is good for you to know and me to highlight that. So what's going to happen next is, so the attorney that's called this witness to the stand is going to, he's offering him as an expert on the matter about which he's going to testify. And the court says, yeah, I agree, I'll qualify him as that. And then the other attorney is going to, call him on voir dire examination, which means that's when they not so much challenge their expertise, but they want to ask more questions before they decide whether or not they can stipulate that he can be considered an expert. Now that term, voir dire examination, is also used if you are called as a potential juror in a case. They go through voir dire examination. It literally means to speak the truth. So they're seeking, in that scenario, voir dire examination is done so that the attorneys can make a decision about whether or not you're going to be a good juror, whether you're biased, whether you're prejudiced, whether you have the knowledge to be able to look at the facts and make a decision. Okay, so it's set up now as instead of direct examination or cross-examination, the heading title is voir dire examination. And this now is the defense attorney. So, and it's amazing when you listen to real transcripts like this, how much you can learn just from, paying attention to what's going on in the transcripts, because it puts it in context for you. Right? So here we go. Question by defense attorney, Mr. Hudson. You indicated that you had had training, medical training, at a school in Guadalajara and Maryland. Right. Was that a split as far as your medical training was concerned? Yes. It's assimilation back into the United States. Guadalajara is in Mexico and assimilated into University of Maryland system with an extra year of training there to qualify for American boards. Okay, so initially then you were accepted to school in Guadalajara. That's right. And then you were able to transfer? It's not a complete transfer. I did my clinical training in Maryland and did an additional year with certification there. You indicated also you were board eligible until 1993. You want to explain what that means? Board certification is a multi-year process. I officially ended training in 1988 for the specialty of surgery. It's a multi-year certification level, and I have to obtain complete boards by 1993 or I'll lose my eligibility. In other words, it's a multi-year process of examinations, both written and oral. Okay, and that's the process you're undergoing. Oops. Let's try that again. Okay, and that's the process you're undergoing. I'm undergoing now, right. Is that just with California or is that a national board? That's a national board. Something like, to put it in perspective for me, much like the specialty engineering boards for somebody that's just graduated from engineering. Exactly. They have to spend a number of years in practice. Exactly. Thank you. I have no further questions. Okay. Okay, I think we're going to end with this now. That was a good little drill. You know what, while I've got the speaker situation all set up, we're going to do this. This will be faster. Lots of phrasing in here. I know you've heard this probably recently. Read this probably 170. Okay, so it's just two voice. So I'm going to use these two. Okay, starts with the question on the record. State your name, Raymond Williams. Where do you live, sir? City of Los Angeles. How long have you lived in that city? Approximately 15 years. Where did you live before that time? San Diego. What is your business? I am an automobile salesman. By whom are you employed? By the plaintiff. Where is his principal place of business? San Francisco. Are you acquainted with the defendant in this action? Yes, sir, I am. And have you been subpoenaed to come to court? No, sir. Have you been called as a witness in behalf of the plaintiff? Yes, sir, I have. How old are you at the present time? I am 40 years old. Do you remember the day this accident happened? Yes, sir. I remember the date very well. What kind of a car was the defendant operating? A Ford sedan. On the day of the accident, where were you seated in the truck? On the left-hand side. Does that truck have a left-hand drive? Yes, sir. Where did the accident happen? On the southwest corner of Harbor and 6th Street. I beg your pardon? On the southwest corner. Did you ever say that the accident occurred on the northwest corner? Absolutely not. Are you sure about that? Absolutely sure. I did not say anything like that. In which direction were you going? In a southerly direction. Have you had any idea how wide harbor is at the scene of the accident, as near as you can judge? Taking into consideration that it is a 2-lane road, I should judge it is about 30 feet wide. As a matter of fact, it is 25 feet wide, something like that. Is that right? Yes, sir, that's right. Do you know whether or not there are railroad tracks at that point? As near as I can remember, there are. About how far away from the corner were you when you first saw the Ford sedan? I should judge about 200 feet. At that time, can you tell us how far away from the corner the Ford car was? It was about in the middle of the block. How wide is that truck, sir? I beg your pardon? About how wide is your truck? About 6 feet wide. How high is it? Something like 9 feet high. Was anyone else in the truck with you at the time of the accident? No, sir, no one else. Have you ever driven over that highway before the accident? I have often driven by there, very often. How often did you pass that corner? Many times during the month. Do you recollect whether or not there was a crowd in that neighborhood when the accident happened? As near as I can remember, there were 3 or 4 people. To the best of your recollection, was it light or dark at that time and place? It was daytime. Pardon me, about how many people did you say there were on the corner? About 4 or 5. On what part of the street were you driving? On the right-hand side. Was someone else with the driver in the other car? I don't remember whether he had any passengers, sir. By the way, were you rather anxious to get home on that day? Is that right? Of course. Did you see any skid marks on the freeway after the accident? No, sir. Tell the court and jury in your own words how the accident happened, bearing in mind that you were going north and the Ford car was going west. I couldn't tell you in a few words. I was on the southbound side, and I am inclined to think that the Ford car was going at a very fast rate of speed. As soon as I got past the center of the street, he hit the car in the front wheel by reason of the fact that I couldn't get out of the way. What do you mean by very fast rate of speed? Fast. For the purpose of this record, will you be good enough to give us your best estimate of the speed? As far as I remember, he was going 30 miles an hour. To the best of your knowledge, that was his speed? Yes, sir. Do you remember whether or not he was on the right-hand side of the highway or the left-hand side of the highway? On the left. What part of his car came in contact with your truck? His right front wheel. At what rate of speed were you traveling prior to the time of the accident? At the rate of about 25 miles an hour. How fast did I understand you to say the Ford sedan was going when you first saw him? About 40 miles per hour when I first saw him. Were you thrown from the truck? That's correct. Were you seriously injured? Yes, sir, I certainly was. Could you say whether or not Mrs. Raymond was hurt very badly? I couldn't say that. I helped to pick her up and take her to the hospital. Do you say, however, that Mr. Raymond was injured? I don't believe so, sir. He was taken to the hospital, wasn't he? I believe he was. What was done for him at the hospital? They took some x-ray pictures of his neck. What time was it when the ambulance arrived, if you know? About 5 minutes after the accident.
Good marks is 2 words, right?
Wow, now you got me doubting it. I think it's...
I always thought it was 1, and then I was looking at my Merriam-Webster dictionary app. Well, I have the app.
Yeah,
and
that's what I'm doing right now. 2 words, right?
I always thought it was mine.
Weird.
Yeah. See,
Well, you know what? Well, it doesn't come up as 2 words, but that's because, yeah. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, it's not even in this list here. Skid Row, Skid Row. Huh. That is really a surprise to me. But yeah, if it's not one, then if it's not listed in the dictionary as 1 word, then it's 2. Okay. We're talking about skid marks. 2 words. Okay, I have about 2 minutes left. Am I going too fast? Okay, good. Here we go. Question. Weren't you under the influence of alcohol when you were driving that day? I've never been intoxicated. Is that right? Yes, sir. Didn't the police officer take you to the police station before you were taken to the hospital? No, sir, I didn't go to the police station with the officer. I understood you to say, among some other things, that your truck was stopped in the middle of the street. Is that so? That is right. There was no other car or truck on that corner at that time, was there? Yes, sir, there was some cars up the street. Did you have any conversation with anybody at any time since the accident happened? No, sir, I have not. Did you have occasion to refresh your memory by talking this matter over with your attorney since this accident occurred? No, sir. Did you give your name to the police officer? Yes, sir, quite a while later. And did you find out the name of the driver of the sedan? Yes, sir, I did, but it was a little while after the accident happened. When your truck came to a stop and you stepped out and saw the young lady on the curb, where did you go? I went over to pick her up. I ask you whether you are able to state that the young lady was on the right or on the left as you stepped out of the car. On the right side in the street. In your opinion, you were on the right-hand side of the street throughout this incident? Yes, sir. You were never on the other side of the street? Absolutely not. Wasn't it absolutely necessary for you to turn away to avoid this incident? I couldn't turn away. I understand you to say that you struck him in front of his car. That is correct. Accident happened, accident occurred. You phrasing those? Okay, good. There you go. You're all ready for 3 voice today now. Okay, let's start with some straight gather now. We're not going to do that one again. Okay, here we go. Oh, let me get out of this. Closing out the speaker. Okay, moving on to some congressional record now. On the record. Mr. Speaker, I have noticed in the last few months from several accounts that have appeared in newspapers and periodicals that there is an ongoing struggle within the administration of the U.S. government regarding the policy of storing agricultural products for future use. The dilemma is faced, and it is a perplexing one. The new farm bill that has been proposed attempts to solve this issue by presenting guidelines for farmers across the nation and all of the 50 states to follow. The feeling among my colleagues is that the long-term storage of crops for extended periods of time does not solve anyone's problems. Although the immediate goal is to solve a domestic economic problem through crop storage, the long-range problems of international food shortages and starvation are neglected. In addition, the storage of crops for future use has had an adverse and negative impact on the balance of trade in the United States of America. Over the last decade, several research studies have been conducted by UNICEF and the United Nations. The goal of these studies was to determine world population trends and the effect that these changes have on food surpluses and food shortages throughout the world. These studies have found that during many potential famines, the United Nations and the United States have been able to stave off starvation for millions of people through the efforts of United Nations airdrops, the Red Cross, UNICEF, and other relief agencies. Food and grain have been distributed to many starving countries. Through our crop storage plans, we in the United States of America have been able to help millions of people on the global front survive another day or another week or another year. In the past, when a surplus existed, Congress had urged the farming community to store these crops for future use. In reality, this ploy was designed to protect the farmer. History has shown that an increased supply of an agricultural product on the market has lowered the price of that product. The more productive the farmer is, the less he is rewarded for that productivity because the price of the product is lowered because of increased supply. Conversely, if the farmer's production is below quota, he also loses because of the reduced supply in the marketplace. The farmer's profit margin is oftentimes reduced by the whims of the buyers. My distinguished colleagues and I are pleased with the support that we have received from the farming community. The farmers are committed to the continuance of the crop reserve program, whereby food is stored for short periods of time for redistribution to the needy at a future time. Okay, I'm going to slow down the next part. We're going to read back a little bit. Okay. On the record. Congress, through the Farm Bill, plans to reintroduce guidelines for farmers to follow in their handling of crop reserves throughout the 50 states of the USA. These guidelines include the following. 1, food surpluses may be stored for a maximum period of 5 months. 2, food stored must be redistributed within a 6-month period after the initial storage period to the needy areas in the USA or other foreign countries. 3, stored food designed or destined for redistribution must fall within the categories designated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture as food that is acceptable for shipment and transport to other countries. 4, Congress will designate categories of food that will continue to receive government subsidies for overproduction. 5, Congress will continue to work with farmers across the United States of America to equalize food distribution and crop production. Mr. Speaker and my distinguished colleagues, I urge your support for the Farm Bill. This bill has passed committee and is ready for your consideration in the next session. Really short.
Okay. Congress, through the Farm Bill, plans to reproduce.
Look again,
I have a little stacking here.
reintroduce.
Oh. Reintroduce guidelines for farmers to follow in their handling of their crop reserves
Yes.
throughout the 50 states of the USA. These guidelines include the following. 1, food surplus may be stored for
surpluses.
surpluses, may be stored for a minimum period of.
Yeah, minimum? Maybe I said minimum. I have maximum. Could have been minimum.
Maximum period of 5 months. Two foods.
Number 2.
Oh, 2 food stored must be redistributed within a 6-month period after the initial storage period to the needy areas of the USA and other.
Or other.
You said 4? Or other?
I have or other.
Or other foreign countries. 3, stored food designed or destined for.
I misread that. Yeah, right.
Redistribution must fall within the categories designated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And I don't know why this is stacking. I maybe it's been wrong.
Yeah, you know what? Your paper was kind of making a noise like it was dragging. Yeah.
And then must fall within the categories designated by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Food that is acceptable for
Shipment.
And transported to other countries. Congress will designate categories of food that will Congress
That will
continue to
yes.
Continue to receive government subsidies for overproduction. 5, Congress will continue to work with farmers across the United States of America to equalize food distribution and crop production. Mr. Speaker and my distinguished colleagues, I urge your support for the Farm Bill. This bill has passed complete.
Not complete. Yes.
Committee and is ready for your consideration in the next session.
Correct. You passed all your 140s, haven't you?
Yes.
160 today. Unless I want to tweak this a bit. Pause this for a second. Okay, we're going to repeat a little bit of that. A few minutes and go back. Here we go. These studies have found that during many potential famines, the United Nations and the United States have been able to stave off starvation for millions of people through the efforts of United Nations airdrops, the Red Cross, UNICEF, and other relief agencies. Food and grain have been distributed to many starving countries. Through our crop storage plans, we, the United States of America, have been able to help millions of people on the global front survive another day or another week or another year. In the past, when a surplus existed, Congress had urged the farming community to store these crops for future use. In reality, this ploy was designed to protect the farmer. History has shown that any increased supply of an agricultural product on the market has lowered the price of that product. The more productive the farmer is, the less he is rewarded for that productivity because the price of the product is lowered because of increased supply. Conversely, if the farmer's production is below quota, he also loses because of the reduced supply in the marketplace. The farmer's profit margin is sometimes reduced by the whims of the buyers. My distinguished colleagues and I are pleased with the support that we have received from the farming community. These farmers are committed to the continuance of the crop reserve program, whereby food is stored for short periods of time for redistribution to the needy at a future time. Congress, through the Farm Bill, plans to reintroduce guidelines for farmers to follow in the handling of crop reserves throughout the 50 states of the USA. These guidelines include the following. 1. Food surpluses may be stored for a maximum period of 5 months. 2. Stored food must be redistributed within a 6-month period after the initial storage period to needy areas in the USA or other foreign countries. 3. Stored food destined for redistribution must fall within the categories designated by the U.S. government and Department of Agriculture as food that is acceptable for shipment and transport to other countries. Congress will designate categories of food that will continue to receive government subsidies for overproduction. 5. Congress will continue to work with farmers across the United States of America to equalize food distribution and crop production. Mr. Speaker and my distinguished colleagues, I urge your support for the Farm Bill. This bill has passed committee and is ready for your consideration in the next session. Mr. President, the bill I am introducing to you today calls for the establishment of a national weather policy and program. The goal of this piece of legislation is to expand the nation's knowledge of weather and climatic trends and fluctuations. This bill also proposes to develop more efficient methods and techniques of dealing with climatic variations that affect not only people but geography as well. Everyone in this chamber has firsthand knowledge of the effect that the Earth's climate patterns have on our everyday life. On a daily basis, we decide how we will dress based on the weather forecast. We decide whether we will remain indoors for the day or go outdoors based on climatic variations. We decide where we will live based on the climate in a certain area of the country. We plan vacations around prevailing temperatures at certain times of the year in specific vacation spots around the world. During the last decade, the United States has experienced some unusual weather phenomena. We have seen the western states deluged with rainfall after a long period of drought. We have seen the Midwest buried by floods caused by unseasonable rainfall. We have seen the eastern seaboard experience blizzards and freezing temperatures followed by scorching summer temperatures. We have seen almost every state in the continental United States experience either hurricanes or tornadoes. Our society is extremely sensitive to changes in the climate. In the last 5 years, the Sun Belt states have experienced a large population influx, which is primarily due to more favorable weather conditions. The North Atlantic states have seen a population decrease over the last decade. People are not the only things moving to more favorable climates. Corporations are relocating to areas where the weather extremes are less severe. Okay. That ends our practice and warm-up session. We're going to start takes. So I'm stopping the recording.